The Trump administration is taking aim at artificial food dyes. Our Amy DeLaura explains how confusion reigns about the administration's next steps.
We're poisoning this generation.
Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has focused on the threat of artificial food dyes, promoting natural alternatives instead. However, when Kennedy announced an artificial food dye ban in late April, it was difficult to determine if the executive action was a straight-up ban or simply a phase-out, and how long this phase-out would last.
We've been working with the food industry, and we found the food industry very, very receptive. We think we have good science that links almost all of these dyes with ADHD, with neurological injury, with cancer.
Well, the news release from FDA does detail 6 actions it will take. First, it is to establish a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based dyes to natural alternatives. The second indicates the FDA will be, quote, initiating the process to revoke authorization for 2 dyes, which will occur within the coming months. So starting the process, but not actually banning those 2 dyes.
And they've agreed to phase out the 2 worst of them.
The third measure begins with working with the industry to eliminate a half a dozen other dyes. Again, continuing to use language that doesn't clarify a timeline of when the agency wants to explicitly ban these dyes. The remaining actions do the same, with one saying it will partner with the National Institutes of Health to research how dyes affect children's health and development. However, in the same release, Kennedy calls these dyes poisonous and claims they already pose measurable dangers to children's health and development. So, what's the research for if Kennedy has already concluded it does negatively affect children? When Kennedy recently testified for the House Appropriations Committee, he got into a tense exchange with Representative Rosa DeLauro, the panel's ranking member.
Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
However, questions remain regarding precisely how the administration will make that happen. Recent Supreme Court rulings have curtailed executive agency authority to implement rules and regulations without specific authority from Congress. That could explain the vague language in the release rather than a direct ban. Such a move would likely face legal scrutiny and be ensnared in the courts for several years. Without any clear enforcement mechanism, companies using dyes in food could go through the motions with the administration, but just continue to use the dyes. However, Trump's recent nomination of Casey Means for Surgeon General reflects a move in support of the MAHA movement.
People know that something's not right, and people know that this health issue is the tip of the iceberg of what's actually happening in our world today.
Means is also an advocate for doing away with artificial dyes. Kennedy is, of course, a true believer, so it's possible with the duo they won't let it lie, even if Trump declares it a win. If that's the case, we could see another political infight within this administration. I'm Amy DeLaura for Washington Examiner.